Hi, everyone, and welcome to the ARBEST monthly webinar series. Today's topic is Behind the Screen, Understanding and Addressing Online Partner Abuse Among Youth. My name is Laura Landers, and I'll be your webinar moderator for today. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know a little bit about the ARBEST program and introduce our speaker. Arkansas Building Effective Services for Trauma, or ARBEST, is a state-funded program at the UAMS Psychiatric Research Institute, and our aim is to improve mental health services for children and families who've experienced trauma. We work closely with multiple partners to provide a more trauma-informed state, and we're probably best known for providing training to mental health professionals on treatments that are effective with helping children and families recover from trauma. A few housekeeping announcements before we begin. Please use the chat feature for any questions or comments you might have throughout the webinar. I'll be monitoring the chat, and we will hold time at the end for any additional questions that might not be answered. Participants in this call are able to earn a CEU for attending this webinar. After the webinar, you'll receive a link to the survey. Complete the survey, and you'll automatically be sent a certificate. We are recording this webinar, and we will upload it to the ARBEST YouTube channel. We have previously recorded webinars there, so check those out. And be sure to check us out on Facebook, where we post upcoming monthly webinars, training opportunities, and other resources. I'm very excited to introduce today's presenter, Dr. Ruby Sharrock. Dr. Sharrock is an associate professor at the Department of Health Behavior and Health Education at the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences. She's also a licensed psychologist in Ohio. Before joining UAMS, she was a core faculty in the clinical psychology PhD program at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, where she trained and mentored several doctoral level students. She did her PhD in clinical and developmental psychology from VU Amsterdam and a postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Nebraska. She has nearly 100 research publications and over 150 conference presentations. Dr. Sharrock's research aims at advancing the understanding, prevention, and treatment of individuals with exposure to childhood adversities, online partner abuse, and related mental health challenges in adolescents and emerging adults. Additionally, she investigates PTSD, complex PTSD, developmental trauma disorder, and co-occurring mental health disorders such as substance abuse and depression. With a keen awareness of the unique challenges faced by individuals with multiple marginalized experiences, Dr. Sharrock has a strong commitment to working with LGBTQIA+ and racially and ethnically diverse individuals, ensuring that her research is culturally sensitive. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Sharrock, and we can begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Laura. I hope everyone can hear me well. If not, just let me know, unmute and let me know. Thank you for that introduction and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining me today. I hear that this is the last of the ARBEST talks for this year, and it's the holiday season. So all the more grateful for you to join me today and about your interest in this topic. And just with the holiday season and festivities around, I was telling Laura I decided to color code, and I hope you like my red background, and I coded my clothes as well. We are going to be talking about stuff and that is challenging, but hopefully this lightens up the mood. Today I'm going to be talking about some of my research and clinical works that we have been doing for the past almost 10 years. I will be focusing on understanding and addressing online partner abuse among youth. I will extend it from adolescents to young adults. I look at emerging adulthood as well. And now that we know from research, it goes all the way up to 29 years of age. So let's dive in. In this talk, I will cover the following 5 points. We will focus first on what is online partner abuse. Next, we will go into what is the prevalence of online partner abuse. We will then discuss what are the similarities and what are the differences between online partner abuse and when partner abuse happens in face-to-face, in-person situations. Um, why is it important for us to know about online partner abuse phenomena, and how does it matter to us as clinicians, as educators, as scientists, as researchers? And lastly, I will talk about how we can apply this knowledge in our clinical work or research or advocacy as well. So, starting with what is online partner abuse? As per definitions, it covers various controlling and coercive behavior, forceful behavior by a perpetrator against their current or former partner. And this occurs over cyberspaces or online platforms. So the important terms here are it can be controlling and coercive, forceful behavior. It is by a current or even an ex-partner. It doesn't just have to be a current partner. And it has to happen over online spaces. Now, usually in clinical settings, your client might not come and say online partner abuse. I've been exposed to it. There's a lot of slang words going on. And even though we work in this field, I also have to keep up often with the words that are synonyms of online partner abuse. You would hear words like revenge porn, cyber stalking, sexting, sextortion, love bombing. I recently had to kind of ask myself what is love bombing, where it's, if you're like me, it says that it's really showering your partner with lots of love, which is good. You need to love your partner. You should be loving your partner, but it's mostly the intention there by the perpetrator is to control the partner and kind of isolate the partner so that they can control their loved one. It's also called cyber dating abuse, digital intimate partner violence. In my research work, I've used terms like cyber intimate partner violence, technology facilitated abuse, technology mediated abuse, electronic monitoring, non consensual image sharing. This is now coming up in the news quite a bit, where we are talking about image based sexual abuse, especially with AI and deep fakes coming out there. And thankfully, we now do have a law that helps out with that, and we'll talk about that. Digital threats, GPS stalking, deep GPS tracking, all these words, I just wanted to bring this to the forefront that these are words that actually describe online partner abuse. So, online partner abuse is not just one type of abuse. It usually, at least in the research realms, my group and the other groups, we take it as it is sexual. It can be sexual in nature, it can be psychological in nature, it can be stalking. An example of sexual abuse, online partner sexual abuse, could be, sharing of your partner's intimate images without their consent, right? Online. It could also be, if your partner kind of requests you that please remove those pictures. Yes, I did consent, but please remove them now. And you don't want to do it. It's mainly you are using it to control them, to threat them. Then that instance is also sexual abuse. Psychological abuse is more to do with like emotional abuse that we know is demeaning, belittling a partner on online forums, right? Abusing them emotionally online. Stalking which is very rampant. Stalking is more to do with keeping a track, either a digital track of what the partner is doing. It could be tracking their every activity on a daily basis, or wanting them to answer back so quickly and kind of wanting to know more about where are you, like here in this image, where are you? Where did you go for lunch? We need to talk like right now, even if the person is at school or is at work. That kind of keeping a track of digital activities of a person is also known as is stalking. So all these three are various types of online abuse. Some other groups, like Barajo's group, they talk about the same phenomena and they describe it as a direct aggression, which is psychological and sexual online abuse, partner abuse, or they also talk about monitoring and control. And I do always mention this research because it's really important for us to understand that even a perpetrator monitoring and trying to control or stalking a partner is considered online partner abuse. We often miss that even, oh, they're just checking in or they're monitoring, but what's the intention behind it? So Another important point here is that online partner abuse is multidimensional. And by now, it's like we have sexual abuse, psychological abuse, stalking, monitoring, threatening, online harassment. All these comprise online partner abuse. So why should we study online partner abuse, or why should we be aware of online partner abuse, especially in youth and young adults? Let's look into the prevalence rates, and maybe that's where we have the answer of why we should be knowledgeable about this phenomenon. So the first study that was done, the earlier studies, Hinduja did in 2021, published this study on middle and high school students aged 12 to 17. This is from the US. And they found that current and past 1 year rates of online partner abuse among adolescents was greater than 28%. Another study in 2014 found that in school-going, treatment-seeking youth, just in the past 3 months, the rates crossed more than 40%, right? And recently, there was a meta-analysis on cyber dating violence abuse, which is also online partner abuse among adolescents. Lee et al. Found that victimization was nearly endorsed by 37%. This is a meta-analysis of a number of studies. And perpetration was nearly 1 in 4, or nearly 25%, right? So yes, more rates, prevalence rates. Watkins, 2018, and I collaborate with her quite a bit, looking at a community sample and a college sample of young adults, which is considered an privileged sample. They have their challenges, but it's not a treatment-seeking sample. Even there, just in the past 6 months, she found that psychological victimization was endorsed by 35% of the participants. Perpetration, again, by 35%. Sexual online partner abuse by 18%. Perpetration, some people said 14% said they engaged in sexual perpetration. Look at the stalking rates. Stalking rates of victimization were 45%, and perpetration crossed 50%. It was 55.4%. More work, my work, when I looked at lifetime victimization among gay, lesbian, bisexual young adults, the victimization psychological went up to 38%, sexual 1 in 4, 25%, stalking victimization 37%. All these rates are extremely high, considering that this is online abuse by a partner. We are not even looking beyond that intimate dating relationship, not by a stranger or anyone else. We are looking at abuse taking place in dating relationship over online platforms among younger populations, and it is staggeringly high. And hence, it's really important for us as advocates, as educators, as clinicians, to look into this phenomena of online partner abuse. And luckily, in the last 10 years, we have seen an interest and focus on this work, and people are now getting more and more aware about the importance of looking into online partner abuse. Okay. Please chime in if you have any questions. Laura, just keep me abreast if there's any question coming up that anyone would like me to answer, and I'd be happy to do that. Here on this slide, I just wanted to discuss a hypothetical scenario of how an online abuse client can come to you and can discuss their challenges. And on the right-hand side in the blank space will come up some instances of how a partner kind of does digital online abuse. And while this is a hypothetical scenario, it is based on some of the mixed method studies that I did, where we did interviews with victims, and they actually gave us themes, and some of the acts of perpetration and victimization are based on the themes that came out from our research work. So let's dive in. Maria is a 14-year-old female presenting with concerns of anxiety, insomnia, self-esteem, low self-esteem, difficulty concentrating. Maria self-referred for therapy due to experiencing persistent anxiety, panic attacks, sleep disturbance, and loss of confidence in her abilities, especially at school. She describes feeling like I'm always on the edge and afraid to make a mistake. She reports difficulty focusing, thoughts about being ridiculed and judged, or an increasing sense of isolation from family and friends. Maria has been in a relationship with her partner Andy for nearly 1 year now. While Maria initially described the relationship as supportive, she mentions recent feelings of being micromanaged and constantly monitored. When asked for clarification, Maria describes behavior that suggests digital surveillance, though she does not recognize them as abusive. On the other hand, when we ask Maria about her partner's behavior, she says Andy often requires Maria to share passwords for all the devices and social media accounts for transparency and for true love. True love, if there's true love, you share everything. And these are based on themes that actually came out in our study. And he often uses location tracking apps and demands explanation from Maria if there's any deviation from any expected routines or routes. Frequently accuses Maria of hiding things or being shady if texts aren't answered quickly. Monitors Maria's emails and sometimes even replies to the emails on her behalf. Sets up smartphone devices, cameras, and controls them remotely without informing Maria when they are active. This has come up among young adults who are cohabiting. Maria has recently stopped using certain social media platforms after Andy told her of being too flirty online. Maria has also stopped seeing some friends, stating it's just easier that way. The last one being Maria attributes her symptoms, her challenges to burnout, and talks about Andy's behavior as that is how relationships are nowadays. So, if you are seeing a client, if you're of my age and you're seeing a younger client, these things can come up. They sometimes do rationalize the behavior and they say, this is how relationships are nowadays. So, how do we work around that? And we'll come down to it. Any questions at this point? Okay, jumping to the third topic. Now that we've established that what's online partner abuse, why is it important? Because the prevalence rates are so high among the younger populations. Let's compare how is it similar or different from abuse or partner abuse that happens in face-to-face instances. So first. Or the aim, whether it's any kind of partner abuse online or in person, it's more to do with control and monitoring the partner and their activities. Activities, usually because of the power dynamics. The perpetrator wants to have a differential dynamic where they're more in control, and the partner, if I may say, is more submissive and under their domain. And be it face to face partner abuse or online partner abuse in adolescents and in young adults, we do see research stating that it does increase mental health challenges and problems. I will be discussing few studies in that. So there some people I think when we talk to them they do think that okay, online partner abuse, because it's not like in person, it's just over text, you can keep your phone down and don't look at the text, it doesn't impact mental health as much, but there is research showing that it does impact mental health. So how is it different? Those were the similarities. where there's control and monitoring of activities. How is online partner abuse different from face-to-face partner abuse? And here are some important points that have come across the literature. They seem obvious, but these are also embedded in science and scientific literature. So, number one, when people are in online communications, there's a lack of physical and social cues because you are, as the title of my study say, of my talk say, that's behind the screen, right? The person is not in standing right in front of you. And that's also pertinent for partner abuse, that online the person is not physically in front of you and you can't gauge the cues as much, the social cues, the expressions, etc. Whether the person is angry and racing towards you, and in that instance, a person's reaction would be, all right, I need to make myself safe. I need to escape the situation. Or social cues of voice intonation, facial expressions, those are kind of missing unless there's a little bit of video chat going on, but it's not as pertinent, as it is in face-to-face situations. While some kind of emotional expression is taking place, especially now that the younger generation is using a lot of emojis to express themselves. It's not the same as in-person interactions. Then studies also show that online, a perpetrator feels less inhibited and is more likely to aggress because there's an absence of, perhaps there is an absence of bystanders around them. There are no people around them. You're texting, you're doing things. It's a very solitary activity and you're sending messages. There's no one to, kind of gatekeep. So that social, that inhibition that goes down and you're more likely to aggress. Another point is that online victimization or partner abuse can happen anytime and at any place. You might be in a long distance relationship across the Atlantic, across the Pacific. That abuse can still happen anytime, any place. For physical, in person, it has to be together, but this can happen anytime, any place, different time zones, different countries, across continents. It can happen. Another important point that has come up in the research literature that leads to that severity of online partner abuse is a person is able to revisit that abuse. And it's kind of, the analogy that I can give is if you worked with people who've experienced intimate partner violence, especially physical, and it leaves scars, it reminds them, if in clinical work I've heard where they say, yes, this scar, while I've stepped out of the relationship, this scar still reminds me of that abuse. So analogous to that, in online partner abuse, it could be in the form of an email, it could be in the form of a text, right? A video that they've sent, a person has sent the partner. The partner can revisit that abuse. It's very durable, and that increases the severity of abuse as well. That re-traumatization, re-victimize, or repeated victimization kind of leads to the severity. So these are some, similarities and differences that one has to keep in mind when you're looking and working with people who have experienced online partner abuse. This might be pertinent to many of us. So why does this phenomenon of online partner abuse, how does it matter to us in clinical practice? And we've touched upon this. Online partner abuse, while we might be aware of it as we are going through this presentation, we are reading, we're keeping up with, scientific practices, it is still considered a very invisible abuse, primarily because something like emotional abuse as well, where there aren't physical like scars or people, the ideology, the societal ideology is it's over text. How much can that impact you? It's a very invisible abuse that a client or a school-going student or your student or people you see in the community might not even acknowledge it as abusive, right? While it might be impacting them. Then the entrapment or control that comes with online abuse is more psychological in nature, and it's through digital means. It is psychological entrapment. While we hear of, horrific stories of people being, kidnapped and kept in like basements and in houses, they're entrapped like physically, right? But online, especially when it's online, it's happening psychological. There's more of psychological entrapment. There are no physical like evidence of it. And that sometimes as a community, as a society, when we don't see physical cues, it becomes difficult for us to, gauge the severity. But research shows that that psychological entrapment is debilitating. As I mentioned, there's high prevalence among youth and of course among marginalized groups. The numbers double, and it adversely impacts mental and behavioral health. And I think in the next slide I have some evidence for that. Yes. So why does it matter to us in clinical practice? Because these are all more of my studies with my collaborators and my students. We know that online partner abuse is associated with increase in depressive symptoms and alcohol use among even those who are legally not of the age to consume. We have among gay, lesbian, bisexual individuals, we've seen that, and many even community samples, we know that online partner abuse does co-occur or comes together with face-to-face abuse as well. In fact, there have been studies, in fact, longitudinal studies, which have shown that, not many, but one or two, that have shown that online partner abuse, especially in today's generation, the younger generation, precedes in-person violence. So it happens online and quickly aggravates, and trickles into in-person violence that can be very, again, severe as well. And and it has also among minority populations, we have seen that this abuse can also increase minority stress, more discrimination, stigmatization, marginalization. Here's a part of some of the brief narratives. We did interviews with individuals who endorsed online partner abuse. In this case, they were Hispanic identifying young adults. And I just wanted to give you brief descriptions. All names are pseudonyms here. And I just wanted to show how, or elevate it through the voices of participants, how they describe their online abuse. So, why does it matter to us? Because IPV, or intimate partner violence, online partner violence, it intensifies over time. And Elena, a 19-year-old, a woman, she talks about her abuse, and she says, at first there was just like simple things, but then he would go through my phone. He would not let me talk to my friends. I'm just giving you brief descriptions, but they were long interviews. Elena continues to talk about how this online abuse trickled into in-person violence as well. And she says, he started to say awful things like calling me names in front of my friends. Christina, an 18-year-old woman, she talks about how she's kind of accepting the digital surveillance and control by her partner. And that's why when you're working with different groups, it might manifest differently. So Christina talks about once you get into a relationship, there are little things that you commit to, and she's referring to her partner's controlling behavior here and justifying it and rationalizing it that, once you're in a relationship, you just have to keep it going. These are small things that you have to make adjustments with. Francisco, a 20-year-old man, he talks about how online victimization was leading to jealousy and negative emotions in his partner. And he talks about with more access, when he gave his partner more access to his online platforms, social media, she could see what I was doing and who was interacting with me all the time, which created jealousy. And then Francisco also talked about how that created disagreements and which led to more severe fights and abuse, even in in-person situations. So these are voices of participants, research participants who talk about their experiences of how online abuse takes place. It's pretty rampant among young adults as well. I did touch upon this. As clinicians, as advocates, as educators, we have to be mindful that online partner abuse might manifest in different ways across diverse groups. In my research with queer identities, LGBTQ plus young adults, one thing that was coming out was their social, sexual, and gender identities were being weaponized against them. So, one form of abuse was that the partner was asking them to engage in certain acts, which against their own will, or the partner was saying, the perpetrator was saying, I'm going to out your sexual and gender identities to your family, to your friends, or whoever at work. So, it was using that their identity, they were using their identity as a threat, so threat of outing their identity. We also came across themes where coercive control in partnership was being used against the gender expression of an individual, where a person was being told to act more feminine or more masculine per what the perpetrator wanted them. And that coercive control, I remember in this was also had sadly led to more physical abuse as well, of course, in in-person situations. Among Hispanic young adults, one theme that really came out was, as Christina in the previous, you know, slide, I talked about her narrative, and also Maria's, the hypothetical situation, where there's kind of an acceptance of abuse to keep the family together or keep the relationship up and going, right? And this also comes out across in-person partner abuse. Okay, how do we apply this knowledge to our practice? So now we know that what is online partner abuse, it is prevalent, and why it's important for us and in our clinical practice. But how do we apply this knowledge to our practice? Well, I've just lined some clinical strategies and tools. Any kind of population you're working with, we always continue to use evidence-based practices. We don't have to really deviate. It's just we adapt per our populations and our clients because one size doesn't fit everyone. We know that as educators, as clinicians, as advocates. When working with online people who've experienced online partner abuse, adolescents and young adults, some things that have really come out in our work is while engaging in, psychoeducation, we are still not yet there where clients or even research participants know that there is a concept of digital autonomy. So, as clinicians, we need to introduce that concept of digital autonomy. Digital autonomy is, for example, clients do think and they do believe that to maintain a trust in a relationship, or if I love a person, I need to share all my digital life with them, right? I have to, if I share my password, I'm showing love, I'm showing that I'm faithful. But as we are talking and with the expansion of digital platforms and the use of digital platforms comes the right of digital autonomy, right? Because many times that sharing of password, what is the intent behind it? Is it sharing information or is it being used to control a partner? So what's the intent behind it is really important. And if the intent is not right, then digital autonomy is really important. Consent. I mean, previously when I was doing my PhD, we were talking about consent of like I was working on child abuse and sexual victimization among young women, and we were talking about consent there. We have come a long way, but now it applies to online consent as well, especially in partnerships. We understand that, okay, we don't have to consent to someone who's a stranger or anyone on online. But the problem or the challenge that we face with online partnerships is people in the garb of love and affection, it's consent is forced and it's not informed. So that's somewhere that as clinicians, we need to psychoeducate our clients that digital autonomy is a right, consent is your right, highlighting what is coercive control, because coercive control often comes under the garb of love and affection. If you love me, you will do this for me. If you love me, you will let me know where you are. I want your whereabouts every hour because I love you and I want you to be safe. To a certain extent, it can be true, but it often can just move from, safety to more surveillance kind of behavior. So drawing that line. Many times when clients come to you, they would be ambivalent about, or confused about, or feeling guilty about questioning their partner's behavior. It's important to validate that. One sec, my cat is in here. It's important to validate that it is that confusion is normal. That's your loved one you're talking about. You are in a romantic relationship with them, and it's okay to feel confused or guilty about any of that controlling behavior. So validating that ambivalence is important. um Especially important is the language that we use, especially if our client is not yet there and making that association with that partner's behavior is abusive. So avoid using and labeling the relationship as you're in an abusive relationship very early on. Be mindful of words that you use. And I kind of just gave just examples of, like, there's a power dynamics, there's digital pressure early on. Those are the kind of words that you can use. Now, the next point is if you're working with parents and caregivers of teenagers and adolescents, right? So oftentimes, and it's natural for parents to feel really, charged up, and that, oh, my child, my teenager, they are in a very abusive relationship. And what do I need to do? The first thing is they say, okay, the first reaction is block the person, just block them online. It's so easy to block them, right? But like in any kind of partner abuse, we have to be mindful about the safety of the client. At times, in severe cases, blocking might not be the answer, because if you are just blocking the person, it can lead to more severe consequences. They can pose as a danger uh, to the client as well. So being mindful that that's not the be all and end all. Blocking can lead to, of course, dysregulations, and the perpetrator can try and harm the person. So first is more safety orientation, stabilization, and then going on to these. So, but oftentimes I see parents like, oh, just block them and just take them out. Don't talk to them, right? Another thing that we as clinicians can have this clinical conversation with parents and caregivers is about having open channels of communications with their teenager. One important versus just removing their digital, device. And that's the first thing, that, all right, you know, you have this phone is troubling you, the person is texting you, I'm going to take away your phone, right? With teenagers and with many people, that it can feel as a punishment as well. So the client might think that, oh, I am being punished for someone else abusing me. So there can be, it can trigger the problem and also lead to more self like guilt and a blame, self-blame on the client. So it's having those open, it's a very delicate situation, but having those open communications than just jumping and saying, remove the device. Parents often will ask about like, how do I monitor my child? Well, that's developmentally it's different. You will monitor a child 8 and below differently versus a teenager, right? So how do you monitor with older children or adolescents? It's more verbal and talking about, and they might know the consequences, they might not. So, and justifying why you're taking a certain action. So I also think that as clinicians, sometimes we should practice role play and give like scripts to our clients or the caregivers. So I just gave you one example here. A parent could talk to the child, their teenager, and say, "I want to understand what you're going through online. I'm not here to punish." And this seems like two different sentences, two very simple sentences, sorry, but it sometimes at the spur of the moment doesn't come. So when you're in that therapeutic relationship and you're talking to the caregiver, you can also have a session where you're having with the parent or the caregiver like a practice role play kind of a session. These are really important, and I've already shared my slides with Laura, and she'll be sharing them with you. There are resources out there with the number of digital platforms, the apps that we have that come out every day is exorbitant. Luckily, now there are nonprofits that are working and advocacy groups that are working. So, towards reducing this. So, there is the Clinic to End Tech Abuse, and this is an online platform where they do tell you about, for example, if somebody's using like spyware, how you can kind of figure that out, what steps you need to take online to protect yourself. You can share this information with your clients. Love is Respect is a second one. It is overall for adolescents, young adults in dating relationships, and not just online, but also in person. But it has a very nice feature on online relationships as well. They also have live chats and helplines that young adults and adolescents can look into. Family Online Safety Institute is one where you can refer them for like families. If there are caregivers and parents, Family Online Safety Institute has a bunch of handouts that you can print. You can have them in your clinics. You can share it with your clients. And I'll give you an example of the FOSI website, where they also sign. I found them very helpful, where there are like behavioral contracts. We sign behavioral contracts in our practice with our clients. So they also have like family contracts about use of online platforms. And I'll give you an example here. As clinicians, you can think of, curating some of these handouts, having them in your clinics, using them to while you're working with your clients, just to that awareness of online partner abuse is a phenomena that impacts people mentally. I just saw a study which said that, that online, the number of hours you were online was also starting to impact physical health like obesity, etc., and depression scores, of course. But yes, it has ramifications on one's health. I just wanted to give you an example of where you as clinicians can find resources. FOSSI is one of them. And this is just a screenshot of one of the family online safety agreements for individuals who are younger than 13 and younger. And I'll just read some of them. Laura, if I don't have time, just let me know. But they talk about online partnerships. So these are contracts, like we sign contracts with our clients at times for those management during our therapeutic alliance. And here it's like a parent and a child, or both the parents sharing a contract, where the parent says, okay, you will share with me what you're doing online. You will always be kind, polite, and respectful to others online. You will access or download music, videos, social apps, or gaming accounts with my knowledge or our knowledge if both the parents are, signing it. Think before you post a comment, send a chat, or hit the like button. Understand that what you post today will still be there tomorrow and may be there forever. Some other points are like only use your device at times that we have agreed upon and respect those limits. Yeah. Don't access inappropriate content of apps. Tell us if you see bad or disturbing contents so we can avoid or report it, right? Use security and privacy settings for each account. And this, if you don't have knowledge, you can go to that. What was this one? The Clinic to End Tech Abuse. They have figured this out for a bunch of online platforms where to go for the privacy setting and things like that, right? So I acknowledge that parental control can be used when needed. Be a responsible digital user, respect these guidelines for what I am allowed to do online, understand the importance of balance and non tech activities in my life. And then there's a place where you talk about other rules for your family, and then both people sign. Of course, as parents and caregivers, you have to reiterate to them that their digital behavior is also really important because children, younger or older, will model digital behavior that they see around them. So yes, that's another important point. Another thing that you as clinicians could do is if you often see that there is an increase in online partner abuse that's coming up, especially if you're working with school age children, young adults, it will come up. Updating your clinical intake forms. Today, Gilbert is again a collaborator. He and I and another Watkins, we have worked on rating scales where this is a short screener of the cyber aggression and relationship rating scale. It's a 6-item scale that looks at the 3 types of online victimization. So think about, measurement based care, updating your clinic intake forms. You don't have to use this. You could also just ask, when we ask about abuse, neglect, any kind of online, we talk about dating violence, but are we asking about just in person or are we asking about online violence as well? And some online resources that are there uh, for children, or minors under the age of 18 years. Today, we do have the National Center for Missing, Exploited Children's Cyber Tip Lines. You can always call 1-800 The Lost for any kind of abusive behavior or dating violence that they're facing online as well, even from peers. Take It Down Act. This was one of those acts which was unanimously passed in May 2025, only recently, this year, during summer. It was passed where if any of those image-based sexual abuse is images have been posted, even if it's real or deep fakes or AI generated, you can put up your case online anonymously, and Take It Down Act tells all these partner organizations, which includes, it's not random platforms, social platforms, but important platforms like Instagram, TikTok, that the younger generation are using, Discord. So those partners will take down any of those images. It also applies to adults as well, where now you have the right to say, okay, yes, I had consented to this image like 20 years back, but now I want this sexually explicit image to be removed, and it will be removed. For adults, like I said, there is the Take It Down Act. It is a federal law now. But we also have the FBI and the Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3.gov. Very important. Under the Take It Down actually comes under the Stop NCII. Stop NCIS is non-consensual image. I'm forgetting about the I, or maybe an initiative where whether it is it kind of generates a unique code of your image that you want to be taken down, and that sends it again to partner online platforms. And they all have signed an agreement that, yes, they will remove all those images from their platforms. So we are getting there because of the number of works past 10, 15 years. There now I do see that there is more laws and acts coming up. Of course, we can do more, but it's happening. And that brings me to the end. I just want to give you some takeaways. Online partner abuse is prevalent and often overlooked, especially in the younger population. You have adolescents, young adults. It's sad that even young children are facing online abuse, perhaps not partner, but online partner abuse does happen. It has its own challenges because it's with a romantic partner. It's important to study and to talk about this phenomenon because it has compounding adverse effects on one's health and development of a child. It can manifest in different forms across diverse groups. Some who are marginalized, their very social identity might be used online to weaponize and control them by their intimate partner. Routine screening and the cross-disciplinary partnership is vital to tackle this issue. And while we are talking about trauma-informed care, there is evidence-based practices, please follow them. But when you're working with partner abuse, including online partner abuse victims and survivors, the first thing that you have to take care, and I don't have to tell you, this is safety-oriented stabilization. You have to make sure that your client is emotionally, cognitively, physically safe before we actually get into those evidence-based practices. So safety orientation is extremely important as well. Well, that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shrock. That was a really good presentation. Do we have any questions from our audience? Lots of thank yous.
I have a question for you all. Anyone who wants to jump in and talk about any, have they come across this phenomenon of online partner abuse?
Yeah, if anyone would like to talk about their own experience, if you just raise your hand, you can be allowed to talk.
Thank you so much for your comments.
We had somebody in the presentation say it's amazing how much control one can have over another online. I've had a teen in a long distance relationship with someone they'd never met, and that person dictated so much of what they did.
Oh, yes. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. Because it's not physical, it's kind of, like I mentioned, the invisible abuse, and we or even the client doesn't really recognize it.
Lynell said, I'm currently working with a teen who has a fast advancing online relationship, and I appreciate having some greater insight about things that may indicate possible abuse.
Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, it's like the dynamics are shifting from online to digital platforms. The intent remains the same, to abuse and control, monitor. It's just the platforms are changing and the dynamics are changing.
Especially, yeah, as younger generations find more meaningful connections with people online. Like it's a big part of their daily lives.
And I agree to that. Like many of s- online community belongingness is important, and it has its very good plus points. I tell youngsters, yes, have those online communities. We've worked and seen that how protective that is as well, right? But it has its flip side of violence, victimization, control, which is very debilitating for people.
Absolutely.
Okay, Gary's asking, or did I miss something? Things become online. Cindy says online sexual exploitation. I have seen a few teen clients where threats were used online to control input. Yes, yes, Cindy, indeed. Gary says, are parents mostly unaware of how involved their kids are online? Do they have any cue of the things they are doing? It depends from parents to parents. There are people who are very on top of things, and there are not. I think in today's generation, we parents do know that online communications are happening, Gary, and they're aware of it. It's just that the younger generation is ahead in keeping up with the new apps and social media. And it's just about parents being how many apps do we monitor? How do we control those devices? That information, those privacy settings, how do we do it? That is an extra work for a parent. Like, how many do I keep track of? Yes, Laura. Yes, I agree. This information, especially for adolescents, school-going adolescents, I mean, I'm alarmed by seeing the rates of online victimization that school-going children endorse. It's not like a treatment-seeking population, school-going children. Um, yes. As a parent, I struggle with that as well, Gary, and I have a little one. I don't know what's going to happen when he's a teenager. How do we get, Laura says, Laura Knapp, how do we get schools to take this issue more seriously? Laura, we need to show schools. I know some schools, as a researcher, not in Arkansas, but I was in Texas before, we tried to get data from schools. And of course, there are hurdles and challenges in doing that. But if we start showing these online, these national surveys that are happening, Laura Knapp, the prevalence rates of online partner abuse endorsed by school children. I mean, if that's a national report, why would it be any different for any other state? Also, I have to reiterate that the rates of abuse, any type of abuse and victimization, can be child abuse or in this case, online partner abuse, are always underreported. There's a myth that, oh, people are blowing this out of proportion. No, it's always underreported. Whatever rates you're seeing is underreported rates. It's more higher than those rates. So having these conversations or talks with school boards, principals is important without perhaps they don't want to be cornered in that say, hey, your school has a problem. No, all school going children are facing this. Let's talk about how can we help our students? How can we protect them? Starting with awareness of this is a problem. Laura, did I miss out on any other?
We had someone, Jessica asked, what is an appropriate age for children to have access to social media, chat rooms, online gaming, etc., as far as cognitive processing and safety?
What's the age?
Yeah, what would you, yeah, an appropriate age you think?
And I think for younger ones below 5, you're not even allowed, you're not even asked to watch more than an hour. Very young ones, maybe 3 to 5, it's the recommended is 1 hour of viewing your tablet or anything. And that also, it has to be age appropriate content. Just by working in the field and as a parent to a young one, I can tell you that online, even viewing of videos of very popular channels that we watch is not regulated. So as a parent, as a clinician, you have to be very actively seeing what are they watching, because the algorithms that are being used are not so good to keep the shorts or the videos that are coming within the developmental age of a child.
That kind of speaks to the next question if someone asked about a website to help parents with parental controls or privacy.
Laura, will you be sharing these slides? So,
Yes. Yeah.
the NTech, the Love is Respect, these are really good. The family, the Fosse, I found them really good. And every time I give this presentation, I've given this presentation now 4 or 5 times at least. I see more and more things coming up, more organizations, more material online. Of course, I look at the credentials of these organizations and I look through the material. There is a lot of stuff. So if you share the slides, the last 2, 3 slides has a lot of those websites that one can start using, sharing with clients, adolescents, parents, school boards, principals.
Yes, and Cindy said here that she works with a group of teen girls that often ask what is a healthy relationship and wondering how much starting at this point would be helpful. I do know that Love is Respect has like a questionnaire of for teens specifically about is this healthy behavior in a relationship.
Yes, and Cindy, thank you, Laura. Thank you so much. Yes, Cindy, maybe referring your, or sometimes we also have to read up about what adolescents talk about healthy relationship because in clinical practice it has happened where I being an older person from another generation, they kind of inform you, but this is how relationships are. So it's like you are from another generation, and I agree the dynamics during my generation were different compared to younger generation. So it's inevitable that they will use dating platforms to get to know people and will engage in dating relationships online. What is healthy, if somebody asks me, is there shouldn't be any threatening, controlling, coercive behavior. If to sometimes adolescents, I say it shouldn't be harming you physically or mentally as well. If it makes your gut feel not okay, then it's not okay behavior. It doesn't have
Absolutely.
to have physical scars.
Yeah. I think we are quickly running out of time here. I'm just going to do my wrap up for people who didn't hear at the beginning about earning a CEU. If you're interested in earning a CEU, please listen to the following instructions. We no longer require a code to submit our participation survey. So after this webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email with me with a link to today's survey as well as the slides attached. When you provide your name on that survey, just make sure you type your name how you would like it to appear on your CEU. And once you submit it, you'll receive an automated message from me with a link to the CEU certificate. If you have any trouble accessing your certificate, please feel free to email me and I'm really happy to help. And thank you so much, Dr. Chirac, for this great webinar. And thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes.